Hey everyone, after some deep presentations, I thought it would be appropriate to tackle a gentler topic before moving on to the next big one. Many of you requested more information on how I make my sourdough bread, so I decided to share that process with you today. I've included a summary of the recipe down in the video description, but for those of you who want a deeper dive with all my tips and recommendations, I've created a full downloadable guide available through my Etsy shop. Topics included are all the details on supplies, starter care instructions, scoring methods, what kind of flours to use and to get, best storage options, my recipe with all the full instructions, and my thoughts on all things sourdough bread. You'll find that link below as well, and without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing you'll need is your starter. This is Seymour, and you'll learn more about how I acquired him through the guide. Here you can see the starter was recently fed and has formed all these pretty bubbles, and it's recipe ready. This is my digital scale. Yes, I use mine often. You're gonna need a glass bowl for mixing, a stainless steel bowl for proofing, a wooden spoon, and a dough whisk for mixing the dough prior to folding. This is a scoring blade or a scoring knife. You'll also need a measuring teaspoon and a cloth like a linen towel or any towel, and some non-toxic parchment paper. Important piece you'll need is a cast iron Dutch oven. This is my Joan of Arc. She's battled the 500-degree oven countless times and has all the beautiful battle scars to prove it. Now I consider this quite charming, but if you're not as adventurous as me, then I'd recommend a pot with a dark colored enamel coating. And of course, you'll need some trusty thick oven mittens. And now let's get started. Use a medium-sized glass bowl, pour in your starter. We're going to be using 90 grams for this recipe. Then add your filtered water. Only use filtered or bottled water for your sourdough, as the chlorine in regular tap water can deactivate your starter. Now give that a thorough whisk until bubbly. Now using a larger glass bowl, begin adding your flours. I use 3 different flours for this recipe, which I explain in my guide. So 450 grams of all-purpose flour, 50 grams of einkorn flour, and 20 grams of the dark rye flour. I then add 2 teaspoons of salt. So now we're gonna go ahead and give this all a good mix and make sure all the flours, grains, and salt is well distributed. Then we're going to go ahead and add the starter mixture and just pour that right in and then give it a really good mix. So I'm going to start with the wooden spoon. Once that's partially combined, we're going to go ahead with the dough whisk. The dough whisk is a lot easier to use. I'm not quite sure why I'm using the spoon in this case. And what we want to do is just lift all of that loose flour and bring it into one mound without working the dough yet. Once that's all combined and there's no more loose flour, we're going to go ahead and cover it with a damp towel for 15 minutes and allow it to rest. So after that first 15 minutes, you're going to go ahead and uncover the dough, have a little bit of water on hand, again make sure it's filtered, and we're going to begin technically kneading the dough, even though this is a no-knead recipe, but this folding process is kind of like kneading the dough. And so as you can see, I'm pinching, pulling, and pressing the dough back into itself, and I'm going to be doing this while rotating the bowl each time for 30 seconds total, and then I'm going to allow the dough to rest again for another 15 minutes. So the 15 minutes have passed. We're going to go ahead and do the final folding session for 30 seconds. Grab our water so that again the dough doesn't stick to our hands, and we're going to pull and fold into the bowl, and it's going to be having some more resistance because the gluten is getting stronger. And we're going to continue this process for the 30 seconds, rotating the bowl and pinching, pulling, and pressing as we go along. And the dough will become a lot more resistant near the end of that 30 seconds. As you can see, I'm struggling over here. And then you're going to flip it over because now you're going to set it up for the proofing process. It's been really hot where I'm living right now, so I'm wetting the surface so that it doesn't dry out during the proofing process. And that's going to proof for 7 to 8 hours total. So now the 8 hours have passed and our dough is ready. It has doubled in size. And so what we're gonna do now is wet our hands and scrape off the edges of the dough from the bowl, gently, trying not to tear it too much. And what that's going to do is allow us to pick up the dough, because what we're doing right now is developing the gluten for the final stage. So we're going to lift the dough out of the bowl, allow it to hang across the sides of our hands, and then we're going to basically fold it upon itself back into the bowl, and we're going to allow it to rest for about 30 seconds. Now, as you can see here, we're going to lift the dough from the opposite section of where the corner was folded so that we can really get an even distribution of gluten stretches going on. As you can see, the two sides are shorter because, again, the gluten is getting stronger. We're going to go ahead and fold it back upon itself and wait another 30 seconds for the dough to rest. For our final stretch, we're going to line another bowl with parchment paper. We're going to lift our dough again from the opposite ends of where it was folded, and we're going to stretch it and then drop it right into the parchment paper bowl, and it's going to proof here for 1 hour while the oven is warming up to 500 degrees with the Dutch oven inside it getting heated as well. An hour has gone by. As you can see, the dough has risen a bit. We're going to dust it with some flour and we're going to start scoring it. There's lots of different ways to score. I share more about this in my guide, but I like to do a really simple score across the top in 2 directions, and then I'll just do some light scoring on the side just to make it more aesthetically pleasing. And yes, my scoring knife actually probably needs to be changed out. Now it is time to pull out Joan of Arc from the oven, and she is blazing hot right now. You can see the steam that had built up in the inside. And now we're going to grab our dough from the parchment paper, drop it right in. This is all happening really fast. Make sure to put our mittens back on, put the lid on, and pop it back in the oven for 26 minutes. And look at this, just came out looking gorgeous, beautiful steam coming out, and we're gonna pop it back in the oven for 15 minutes without the lid so that we get this beautiful golden brown crust, and it's perfectly caramelized and it looks amazing. We're going to pull the bread straight out of the oven, put it on a cooling rack, or this is just the top of my stove because I don't want to ruin the marble. And look how incredible this looks. So we have a perfectly hard, beautiful crust, and it's especially difficult to resist the urge to cut into this loaf, but it's best to wait until it's perfectly cooled. And there's even merit to waiting a whole day, and I talk about this more in my guide. And there you have it, guys. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If this video brought you clarity or inspiration, I'd be honored if you checked out my full sourdough guide on Etsy. It's packed with everything I've learned and made with the same care I pour into every loaf. I'll see you in the next video.